Hello friends, welcome back to A Hopeful Holler Makes video podcast. It is a podcast all about the fiber arts, some deep thoughts with Michelle, and Blue October at the end. So I just want to welcome you back. Obviously, if you've been here before, if you haven't been here before, welcome. Hope you found a podcast that you enjoy. My name is Michelle. I am A Hopeful Holler Makes on Instagram and YouTube. And I love to make things. And I love to make my life as enjoyable as I can and hopefully be a blessing to others along the way and help them have fun too. So that's what my podcast here is all about. So if that's the kind of thing you enjoy, come on aboard. So you'll see if you have been here before that I am not with the sheep right now. So my husband is a CPA and we had a wonderful business trip I had the opportunity to join him on. And so we are here in San Antonio, Texas. And I have had so much fun. I've gotten so much knitting done and had so many fun conversations with people here at the hotel. From time to time, I'd be sitting out in the lobby without headphones on to give the message that I am open and available for conversations, because we all know that headphones mean peace out. Please leave me alone. And I do that sometimes too. But I just really want to enjoy the company of others and meet new people, and I've done that. It's been so fun. I had a project, so my second sock, you'll know from the last episode, I was working on Mustache Yarns Bohemian sock yarn, and this is not the first sock. This is the second sock. So I still have those toes that need to be Kitchenered. And here we are on the second sock. So as you may or may not know, depending on how experienced of a knitter you are, something like a sock is fantastic for just having it out in public, because once you have the knit and the purl stitch down, you can just sit in public and knit and have conversations and be quite sociable if that's what you want to do. And it just works out perfectly because it's, I don't know if y'all heard that. Anyway, I'm not gonna go there. So I had Mustache Yarns out there working on it, and from time to time people would ask me what I'm doing, and we would have the sweet conversations about how their grandmother used to knit, or their daughter, a 7-year-old, a sweet little 7-year-old, her and her dad, the little girl was watching me, and he apologized, and I said, please don't apologize. I asked, have you seen knitting before, to the little girl, and she was very shy, and she said, yes. And he said that in her aftercare program this last year at school, they were teaching them to knit, and I just thought, yay for the brilliant knitter who realized she had a captive audience of young children who would be blessed by having this life skill. So hurrah, that just made me so happy. So here I am. I've immediately jumped into works in progress, but I have to say I'm pretty excited about this one, because if you are a big mustache yarn connoisseur, as many of us are, you will know that Mustache Yarn, Sweet Miss Stacy, the fabulous dyer behind Mustache Yarn, lives in San Antonio, Texas. And she and I visited quite a bit at the Wool Slayers concert. Sal and Al, I'm gonna have to talk to them about Wool Slayers concert. Maybe they could open for Blue October. Anyway, squirrels. Mustache Yarns. Yes, so Stacy lives here in San Antonio, and while we were at the marketplace for the Wool Slayers retreat a few weeks ago, she was very kind and just asked me if I was ever interested to contact her. She'd like to talk to me again. And so when we came to San Antonio, I had watched her video podcast, and I had seen that they were going to the coast, and I thought, well, I don't want to bother her. You know, she's probably packing, getting ready for the coast and everything. But I couldn't help, when I was out knitting and looking at the beautiful vista of San Antonio, I couldn't help sending her a little video of me working on her amazing Bohemian Rhapsody socks, to just let her know that I wished her well, and I hope that the beach would bring peace and restoration, as we all, I think, really enjoy about nature, especially the beach. And just sent her that and said, if by chance you're available, I'd love to take you to lunch, buy you coffee. And she texted me back, y'all, saying that yes, she would love that. We had the best time ever. I had the best time ever. So first we went to Yarnivore here in San Antonio, and they were so funny. Moses is the gentleman who works there who greeted us when we walked through the doors. I introduced myself. I'm just Michelle, you know. Do you know Stacy? And there was kind of a, look, because she's really awesome the way she flies under the radar, you know. People don't always know the face behind Mustache Yarn, but her sweet and kind and gentle spirit, I think should be known. And so anyway, I had asked her if it was okay if I videoed and all, and so I'll either insert or add clips to the end, maybe in their own little montage, from folks that I also talked to at the Wool Slayers podcast. But anyway, she's standing next to me, and I said, this is Stacy of Mustache Yarn, and he freaked out. It was so adorable. And anyway, if you're new around here, you'll know I like tangents. I really like a good rabbit hole. And I try and make them connect, but sometimes you have to stay around a little bit to see how it all does connect. So I had a precious conversation with a woman that I absolutely adore and who has been kind enough to give me some words of wisdom and her opinions on my podcast, and I highly appreciate those words, and I value her input. And one of the things that I told her was that in my podcast, I'm not selling anything. I sell hope, but you don't have to pay money for it. I just want to expose as many people to hope as I can, because I've been through so much in my life. The value of it is strong in my own life, and I like to share that with others. So anyhow, I was telling her, this was 3 days ago, I said, like Moses, I don't feel qualified. Those are the deeper feelings that I work through to have a camera in front of me and to share my own story. And it's my story, y'all. I can do that. But I've just held myself back for so long. And someone else asked how Blue October fit with my knitting podcast, or my Fiber Arts podcast. And so I discussed these things with this precious woman, and she talked to me about, she saw 3 things. She saw my redemption story and my love of the fiber arts and sharing these thoughts, and Blue October. And Blue October, in my opinion, represents having been to the deepest, darkest places in life and coming through on the other side, not with a little bow all wrapped up of perfection, but a continuing process. And so because their music came to me at such a really emotional, challenging time in my life, I had never heard of them. It just, for me, fits perfectly, and I want to expose as many people as I can to their music because I know how they have touched the lives of so many, but specifically me. And I was a woman who believed, and I did have a lot of really healthy tools in my toolbox to deal with tragedies and hardships and difficult times. But a few years ago, it was like boom, 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 boom. And people who knew us, even you could almost just sort of sense unbelievable. And I've met other people that way who go through those times in their lives where it's one thing after another. And I'm not talking about living in the drama of, I broke my nail and I don't know, I ran out of dishwashing liquid and blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about deaths, mental hospitals, suicidal ideations, loved ones. Ooh. So I'm going to start the podcast on that note, just to explain a little bit of why it is that I have the fiber arts, which I feel are truly healing. There's been a lot coming out in Wall Street Journal and various medias explaining how and why, the hows and whys. And most of us who are into the arts in general know the hows and the whys. We know the effects of it, but we may not necessarily know the science behind it. So it is really fascinating, I think, to see some of the science behind it, of focus and the ability for so many negative thoughts to just pass away, for you to be able to, for a human to be able to allow the clarity of the uplifting and the encouraging and the motivating and the action thoughts to rise to the top. Because I know for me, sometimes I'll start knitting or other things. I have lots of other little things. It's not just all about the fiber arts, but gardening, journaling, knitting, crochet, weaving, all of these things I can start, and my mind is filled with the anxious thoughts, with the thoughts of I'm not good enough, I have nothing to say, who am I? That's one of the ones that I've heard a lot in my life, in my own head, is who do you think you are? And I realized I projected that, I guess. I don't know all of the psychology behind it, but I remember specifically a time in 3rd grade where a little girl slapped me in the face, and it was a day I was feeling particularly happy, sassy. I don't know. I don't think I was being mean, though I had those days too. I think I was just happy, in a good mood, and I remember her, she's a very unhappy little girl. Who knows what was going on in her sweet home life? But she slapped me in the face and she said, "Who do you think you are?" And so I have an image sometimes of, like, it's a bar, like almost saying, don't go past this amount of joy, because people out there are going to say, who do you think you are to be so happy and joyful and carefree? And it's my birthright. And it's your birthright. And I want to share that bit with you. So today we went straight into deep thoughts. Now I can see that I'm halfway into our podcast. Let's get on with the projects, shall we? So mustache yarn, love it. Second sock, last episode before last, I had completed, except for the Kitchener toe. Actually, almost begged Stacy to Kitchener my toes for me while we were eating some awesome Tex-Mex, and she was kind enough to say yes, but then I felt bad and I said, no, I'll save it. I'll do it myself. So while we were at the Yarnivore, as I began the podcast by saying, Yarnivore here in San Antonio, Texas, Miss Gloria and Moses helped us. First of all, I knew I just wanted to get some sock yarn. I'm not a super big haul person unless I go to a festival or I've saved my money specifically for that, or I'm purchasing specifically for a project that's up and coming. So, but socks, I'm always making socks. As I stated before, they're easy to do. So I got this. I don't know if you can see the sparkle. It has Stellina. It's 100 grams, 438 yards, 75% merino, 20% nylon, 5% silver Stellina. Super sparkly. So my thought was, I'm gonna make socks because that just looks like super fun sock yarn for myself. But then I had yarn, and I'll get to this in a minute, on a project that I completely messed up. But are there really any mess ups? Because this. So I brought all the balls because I was going to start a little sweater. And I had to take all of that out because I messed it up so royally. But then, after I brought this yarn back to the hotel, inspiration struck. So I purchased this bag in Oregon, the land that I love, and my husband and I are going back there in July, and I needed a project to work on. So I think a 2-color shawl is in store. So this is mustache yarn, the purple, right here, Miss Diane from Houston. Hello, lovelies. I love that she says that. And this is Lone Star Arts. And I just think it looks fabulous together. So I can't wait for that. Haven't decided the shawl. If anybody has any recommendations on a shawl that you love that's 2-colored, I would be open to recommendations. I'll take that. So here's another little gadget that I got. Let's see. When we were at Yarnivore, I am forever losing my needle sizer. What are those called? You know, you put your needles in there to make sure you know what you're working with, and I am always losing mine, so I'm gonna put this on my keychain. I've been looking for one for a while, so I was excited to find that. And then Moses was so sweet. He went to the back and brought us a card with a cute little button that'll go on my Juju bag, and some little stitch markers that open. So that was so sweet of Moses. He was a hoot. So that was my purchases yesterday, and I did purchase more Bohemian from Stacy, except I chose the wrong weight. So she's gonna replace that for me, and that's on its way. So last time we met, I showed you the Jody shawl, and I had just started it. So here we are. And I really love the colors. They're almost completely true when I show it. So the next color is a brown, and then I'll be finished. So it has 3 colors. And these are all chocolate and cherries themed, which I dig. Totally. Jody shawl. So that's by Joji Locatelli, and I'm sure many of you have seen that before. So those are all my works in progress. I have nothing complete. If I focus on one, I probably would, but maybe not. I mentioned in the last episode that I got a puppy, very sweet puppy. And she takes so much time. We have a little schedule, and she wants all of my attention, and I am more than happy to give it to her because I've recognized this is a very, very short season. I didn't grow up with dogs, and so for me to realize that their little lifespan is like that. I'm not trying to think about her death today or anything like that, but 10, 12 years goes by fast. At least it does to me. Being almost 50, I realize time really does go by so fast. And so I just want to cherish every moment. And I'm putting my knitting down, and when she's sleeping, that's when I knit, or before I get her up in the morning. It literally is like keeping babies, having babies. I used to be a nanny, and I keep a very similar schedule with them, with the puppy. Her name is Sadie Grace, that I did with the babies. And we just have so much fun. So she's doing really well. She's being boarded right now, and I miss her terribly, but I get to see her tomorrow. So that's the update on Sadie Grace. She's a sweetheart. So we're already at 21 minutes. I try not to look down a whole lot on my podcast, but there are a few things that I wrote that I'd like to share. So as I was speaking to that wonderful woman, let's just call her Glory Girl, shall we? She's the older woman in my life. One of a couple who knows just how to speak truth into me and encourage me and lift me up and inspire me. So we'll call her Glory Girl. I told her if she was a superhero, that would be her name. So that's what I'm going to call her here. Glory Girl. I was explaining how I got my name, A Hopeful Hauler Makes. And I wanted to weave, as she suggested, that in with Blue October. And I was praying about and working out in my mind how I wanted to do that. So I thought I'd share a scripture from the Bible that especially came to mean a lot to me when I went through a deep, deep trauma dealing with abandonment and betrayal. So this was back in 1997. And before that time, I really don't feel like I knew who I was very well. I was in my young 20s, which I meet young ladies that age today and they seem so wise. But I didn't really have a grasp on how to deal with my emotions and so much of my past. And so when I went through this event, this relationship situation that caused so much pain, I thought I wouldn't be able to make it. And I had been wanting to read the Bible and wanting to understand how it applied to me in any way, because before that I just didn't have anything to really hold on to. It just seemed like a bunch of words that took place a long time ago. I had zero connection to any stories in there at all. And so as I was going through this, I literally cried out to God asking, how am I gonna get through this? And I had a friend who had a book, a Bible study that was also talking about body image and things like that, and I've shared some things here about my struggles with that. And one of the scriptures was from Jeremiah, and I'm just going to read it. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." And I clung to that, and I began to receive a vision of becoming and being a woman that I never knew I was before. And to me, this is the classic story of humanity. and superheroes. When, X-Men and Spider-Man's about to come out. When we go through these difficult times and we choose to dig deep, we find diamonds. And we have a deeper understanding of who we really are in this world of chaos and distraction and sometimes heartache and pain. That there is a place created within us that if we can tap into that, it just changes everything. So that's actually what I did, and that's how I got through this trauma. And I learned so many life lessons from that I'd like to unpack over the course of this show. So for myself, I received a new name, and that was Hopeful. I'd always considered myself somewhat hopeless and helpless, and just very, very low self-worth. And so it was so ironic to me that I would just go through this horrible situation and then come out stronger and better on the other side. And again, this is in 1997. So I was a very young woman at that time. And so that has been the foundation for the rest of my life. And not that it's all unfolded perfectly, certainly not. But it has unfolded with that foundation and that thought always running in the back of my mind amidst whatever is happening. And so I felt really empowered to share my story, at least parts of it, with folks. For years I'd spoken at different little groups at church, women, any woman or man, sometimes the husbands and wives would be together, that I could encourage in that way. It was my hope and my joy to be able to give that, because I believe it heals me and it heals other people to know they're not alone, and these things do happen and you can get beyond them and be even stronger in a healthy way. Stronger, not like a fake facade strong where you don't cry, obviously, because that's the art of how we grieve. Blue October reference. So anyhow, lots of deep thoughts today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you found something that you could noodle on for a bit. And I just want to encourage you this week to listen to, they're all my favorites, but one in particular that speaks to this podcast is a song by Blue October called Fear. And I hope you enjoy that. There's an amazing video on YouTube that is worth your 2.5 minutes. So again, thank you so much if you've left a comment, if you've subscribed. I have read the comments. I do need to go back and comment back and but I really appreciate you being here. And I hope I've offered you something that will help your day and your week and your month. Thank you. Namaste. Everything is better with Wool on a podcast. Bye-bye.